Story 1. I am a contractor for the Office of Personnel Management. The day after the inauguration, all of our servers were taken offline, and we were told not to log in to our computers. Story 2. This is a government takeover by an unelected billionaire running a fake government agency ostensibly at the behest of the president. It is going to destroy lives. Story 3. Call Immigration and Customs Enforcement. There is an immigrant fucking with our government. Story 4. An unelected immigrant is taking control of the government. He is the top person to deport. Story 5. Exactly what you would expect from an authoritarian oligarch. Story 6. Oh, the country is absolutely fucked. 11 days to take over every facet of the functioning agencies and cripple the economy. We are about to see some serious shit. Story 7. The world's richest man has no checks and balances. We can debate it all we want, but we know it's true. We are so screwed. Story 8. The pace at which America is collapsing from a modern democracy with some semblance of checks and balances into a corrupt pseudo-fascist state with a cult of personality dictator is breathtaking. They have shown complete disregard for the law and clearly believe they answer to no one. There was a momentary pause when the government shutdown was challenged in court. The next step would be to dismiss the courts as irrelevant and simply ignore their rulings. Does it really seem a large leap from here to arresting judges or rounding up the leaders of the opposition as traitors? Story 9. Republicans are privatizing the government. Expect very bad things to come. These are things people fought and died for to secure for you. You will not be able to pass them on to the next generation without doing the same. Story 10. Remember when this man gave a Nazi salute at the inauguration? Now he is hijacking the government. This is insane. I knew this would be horrible, but it is already worse than I thought. Story 11. I think he needs to be in prison. People should remove him from any official office through legal means and deport him. People need to realize exactly how dangerous this man is becoming and contact their elected officials about it. Democratic leaders need to take action and start speaking up, and Republican leaders, many of whom dislike Elon Musk, should also speak up. If he is left unchecked much longer, he could damage this country even more than Donald Trump did, and that is hard to imagine. Story 12. Elon Musk was neither elected nor confirmed by the Senate. Allowing him to do this is a form of treason. In a better country, the opposition would try to do something about it. If they could not do it electorally, they would try something else. Democrats in power have become too meek and non-committal. This is the time for them to act, but they are staring at the ground and shuffling their feet. I see some hope in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and some of our governors, but Democratic senators are a disappointment. Story 13. I think every decent American should be outside their nearest government building protesting every night. If you are not at work or sleeping, protesting should be your hobby. I understand that you fear Trump using the military, but if you do not protest now, you may never be able to again. Take part in any general strike that happens. Do not buy anything from Republican companies. Help your community. Combine your resources to feed people who lose their jobs and so on. Story 14. Can you imagine Soros doing this? Fox would be losing its mind. Story 15. I think people who tried to both sides the election should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Story 16. I am very tired. The United States is literally about to implode, and it seems like nobody wants to do anything about it. Story 17. If America cannot survive a celebrity born of nepotism from South Africa and a washed-up, bloated reality television star, then maybe it never deserved to. This is not an unexpected crisis. It follows a blueprint that has been publicly available for over a year. Project 2025 laid it out in plain sight, and now it is being executed step by step. The fact that many people still refuse to see it for what it is suggests the America that once stood as an ally to the world is rapidly fading from a European perspective. The window for safe dissent and protest is rapidly closing. Once Trump purges the military of anyone who will not blindly follow orders, historical patterns suggest that armed resistance and sabotage become inevitable, and that resistance will likely be led by those purged for ideological reasons. Because of America's unique political landscape, this will not resemble a conventional civil war. There is no geographic split like in 1861. Instead, it will be an economic and ideological divide between urban and rural America. Any resistance will not look like battlefield warfare, but will be closer to the underground resistance movements in occupied Europe during World War II. In those scenarios, transportation, logistics, and communication were key targets. Railways, highways, supply routes, and government-controlled infrastructure. The Proud Boys are already mobilizing on one side, and the John Brown Gun Club is arming on the other. Factions are forming. The question is no longer whether things will escalate, but when. Story 18. It makes me think the oligarchy is pivoting to a kleptocracy. Kleptocracy, also called thieveaucracy, is a government whose corrupt leaders, kleptocrats, use political power to expropriate the wealth of the people and territory they govern, typically by embezzling or misappropriating government funds at the expense of the wider population. A feature of this politically motivated socioeconomic theft is that there is often no public announcement, apology, or legal punishment for the offenders. Story 19. Sabotage? Treason? Legality just does not matter anymore. Does it? Story 20. Imagine what the political right would be doing if this happened during President Joe Biden's administration. Where are the elected Democrats, the response, and the think tanks generating legal cases to obstruct this? Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries? Story 21. So far, all of the actions taken by the second Trump administration are consistent with actions one might take to make our government non-functional and destroy our economy. Musk's jubilant participation is entirely consistent with that scenario. Story 22. Elon Musk is a clear and present danger to national security, and he needs to be removed yesterday. Story 23. It's fucking bad. This is barely the tip of the iceberg. This is neither a joke nor alarmism. The United States has been taken over by a fully fascist, authoritarian, senile old sack of shit who has allowed the oligarchy to run rampant. Story 24. Fascism is a key part of every dictator's coup playbook. Replace the professionals with crony loyalists. It is that simple and terrifying. Story 25. The National Security Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation need to protect our country from all foreign and domestic threats, and whatever Elon Musk is. Story 26. I believe we should begin arresting non-government personnel who interfere with government systems and charge them with all applicable offenses. Story 27. This is a massive national security issue, unlike anything we have seen in a long time. Consider all the systems that Musk and his associates could manipulate and sell to the highest bidder. Story 28. Laughing my ass off. An unelected immigrant is interfering with the government. Story 29. This should be escalated or taken to court. Oh wait, the president is allowing this. How much higher can it go? It is frightening how much this resembles a coup in the making, and Americans are doing nothing to stop it. Story 30. The fact that the United States cannot stop this clown, who is not even part of the government, from effectively running it shows how much of a joke its institutions are and how the law does not apply to the rich. Story 31. I can't assist with requests that promote or threaten violence. Here are nonviolent alternatives suitable for text-to-speech. He should be reported to the authorities. He should be held accountable for his actions. He should face legal consequences. Story 32. An unelected plutocrat openly sabotaging our former democracy for personal gain. That's it. A sad end to a great story. Story 33. I think it is strange that a non-elected, non-security vetted individual with no qualifications has this much power over your government, your lives, and your future. This is what happens when you vote for people who want to be kings or dictators. Good luck. Story 34. Trump wants to fire most employees of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This will definitely increase crime because there would be no one left to fight it. Story 35. Elon's end will be violent at this rate. He's really making a public enemy of himself. Story 36. They are preparing for privatization, one of the major transfers of wealth from the public sector to the private sector. They want to act quickly before legal challenges halt their plans. They want an employee list and to run checks against social media and other sources to identify who are supporters of Make America Great Again and who are Democrats, Then fire Democrats and rehire supporters of Make America Great Again. See new requirement for federal hiring. This is part of an overall plan to place supporters of Make America Great Again in all key government departments and supervisory roles. Story 37. Everyone. This is bigger than the grand old party playbook of saying that government does not work, then getting elected and proving it. This is intentional internal sabotage meant to grind our system to a halt and leave us unable to protect ourselves or project power on the world stage. Please educate yourselves before it is too late. Story 38. Why is this unelected, drug-addicted asshole permitted access to this? Seriously, this country is a clown show. Story 39. Do not forget anything that happens now. Do not disengage. There are far worse things ahead. Story 40. The fact that Elon Musk is running a government department and has major influence over government policy is wild in itself. This script could easily be downloadable content for Cyberpunk 2077, which depicts the point in history when megacorporations took over the world. Story 41. You know what's so funny about all this? Trump constantly questioned Obama's citizenship, and now he has an immigrant pulling the strings. People argue that Trump is not racist. Give me a fucking break, man. Story 42. Honestly, it's baffling that you guys keep calling yourselves a democracy. Story 43. It is like when he walked into Twitter and started shutting down random servers, except now it is an entire country. I am sure the plane crash is the first in a series of unforced disasters we are about to see play out as the entire federal public service is hollowed out, losing its competent staff. Story 44. I believe that is called sedition. He was not elected. He is a private citizen like the rest of us. Story 45. Ironically, the United States government is being cucked by a frigging immigrant, and people are lapping it up. Story 46. An unelected private citizen allowed his employees, who did not have security clearances, to access and alter government data systems and to lock out the people who were actually qualified. It is completely unacceptable. Story 47. Federal employee here. Treason. This marks the beginning of the fall of the Republic. All federal employees, regardless of title, must take the following oath of office before entering the service. Note the phrase foreign and domestic enemies. This is the greatest terrorist threat this nation has ever seen. Elected officials are spineless and the public is apathetic. Federal employees are the last line of defense against this takeover. Once we are gone, this country is lost. This is not hyperbole. Meanwhile, we continue to do our jobs to keep society running while being bombarded with threats and dehumanizing efforts. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Story 48. I think our executive branch and the hastily assembled unapproved agency that gives the unelected richest man in the world excessive control over our government are blatantly ignoring laws, and terrifyingly little is being done to stop them. Story 49. This seems bad. What do you want me to say? He is not even a government official. Legally speaking, he probably should not have access to those systems. This is what a power grab looks like, a self-coup. Story 50. Hostile foreign agent. Trump is guilty of high treason. Both should be seized and immediately put before a firing squad. Story 51. The United States is in the midst of a coup d'etat. The Capitol attack on January 6th was a dress rehearsal, and now comes the main event, just as the warnings predicted. Best wishes. Story 52. An unelected, unconfirmed employee who could not obtain a security clearance is single-handedly disrupting a major department that serves as the human resources department for the entire government, locking employees out of the computer network and physically seizing control of their facilities. If ever there were an outrageous action warranting congressional investigation, it is this. This is not how our government is supposed to work. Story 53. Since none of you are protesting in the streets, the United States seems to be perfectly okay with it all. I wonder when you will realize the time to protest is now, and I hope it is not too late. Story 54, your country is a fucking circus, and many of you honestly deserve it for either voting for Donald Trump, not voting at all, or wasting your vote on someone with no chance because you did not like Kamala Harris. Story 55, I would be afraid that Musk is compromised and is doing this on behalf of the adversary. We put so much effort into security, and this is what happens anyway. I hope you all like the movie Red Dawn. Story 56. The question is, what are Americans going to do about it? The answer is absolutely nothing, simply because many people are too comfortable. Outside of complaining on their preferred social media platforms, they will do nothing. Most cannot even be bothered to contact their congressional representative. I doubt many even know who that is. Story 57. Are we going to let this happen? I'm ready to drive to the District of Columbia. Story 58. Elon Musk shouldn't have access to government systems at all. Story 59. I should have implemented port security on those network nodes. An intruder entered, connected a rogue router providing domain name system and dynamic host configuration protocol services, and robbed the country. Story 60. A civilian with no security clearance who has Putin on speed dial has now accessed all of our social security numbers and bank account numbers, likely at the behest of our dear leader. It is great news. Story 61. It's part of the fascist coup currently underway in broad daylight. Story 62. What do I think? I think America is getting exactly what it voted for. Story 63. That is treason. Putin is severely undermining the United States, and his associates are ransacking the government as we speak. Story 64. Languid, dull, chubby, flowery, vast, beneficial, bake, exultant, many, squeeze. Story 65. This is exactly the kind of nonsense that was promised during the election. People who voted for him should be elated. I have reached the limit of my negative reaction and have been in this state so long that I think I am numb to the feelings. The only feeling I can still identify is hope that these actions hurt the people who voted for him and hurt them severely. Story 66. We had a decade to find out what these people were about. Anyone who is surprised is a moron. This is what Americans voted for. Story 67. I do not understand why people are still confused about what is happening here. Trump is trying to fulfill Grover Norquist's vision of a federal government that is small enough to drown in a bathtub. They are trying to cripple most of the federal government and return power to the states. Story 68. I think we are under an active attack on our government, and no one is doing a goddamn thing. Story 69. He holds no actual power in the government beyond offering suggestions. He has no security clearance and has not undergone a background check. I am fairly certain this is a federal crime because a high-level security clearance would be required for that, and I doubt his aides have such clearance either. However, Trump and his associates appear to be committing so many crimes that it is difficult to keep track. Where does one even start? Story 70. I do not understand how the general population is not in open revolt. Story 71. Imagine if President Biden created a made-up office that did not require Senate confirmation, had the power to take actions such as locking out computers, and then appointed George Soros to lead it. The Republican Party would go bonkers. Even many liberals would react the same way. Personally, it feels like the Republican Party is doing many of the things it accused the left of doing. I am actually kind of freaking out. I have a lot of privilege in the United States, and I do not think anything President Trump is doing is fair. It is harming or will harm a lot of people who are marginalized and cannot defend themselves. There is no empathy or humanity in what is happening. It is cruel and vindictive. Story 72. The fact that the checks and balances intended to prevent something like this were compromised is the most disturbing part. This is taking a toll on everyone's mental health. History will someday wash this away along with other things. Welcome to our new abnormal. Story 73. Musk, who does not have need to access or stewardship over those machines, brought in a group of people who also do not have need to access or stewardship. They are not contractors on a charge code for maintenance and monitoring of those machines. They are certainly not on the authorized personnel list. This situation is a textbook security incident, and the security teams are undoubtedly panicked because they are forbidden from doing their jobs. Story 74. I am a former Department of Defense information security contractor. We have always had training about the insider threat, and now it is happening and this government is allowing it. An unelected immigrant who has not been vetted has unfettered access to government information, with no security clearance and no adjudication. This is truly terrifying. Laws are being broken left and right, and I am losing my composure. This is literally a coup d'etat in the making, and it is depressing. Story 75. He is a national security risk, and it is going to severely disrupt our government's ability to function. But will anything happen? No. Story 76. I was always a little iffy on the need for the Second Amendment in modern times. Now I think it is probably a good idea to keep it around. Story 77. I hate that a private citizen has access to the personal information of everyone through the Treasury. Story 78. Well, they were right about immigrants coming to take our jobs. They were just too racist to realize it was not who they thought, but rather one obscenely rich, pasty white South African cuck. Story 79. We are officially an oligarchy. What else is there to say? Story 80. He is a foreign agent who does not have the security clearance required to do what he is doing. He is committing a crime of the highest order. Story 81. He should be sent to Guantanamo and spend the rest of his life in a cage for attempting to destroy the United States. Story 82. I served as a 3D1X2 routing, switching, and telephone specialist in the United States Air Force. This clearly indicates a cybersecurity incident, and from the description they are not following guidelines or protocol. 1. Installing any equipment on a federal network must be vetted and approved before installation or use. Even something as small as a flash drive in a laptop requires clearance, justification, and approval by the security manager. 2. If they are installing equipment without authorization, their devices likely are not configured with required security measures. This creates vulnerabilities that could allow adversaries or other malicious actors to access critical information. 3. They may not have the proper security clearance or the training necessary to configure their devices to required security standards. 4. Installing equipment requires a work order, a start time, and an estimated duration. When the installation requires an authorized service outage, the work must be planned in advance and affected locations must be notified. 5. Users should not have privileges to perform this. Only personnel who manage the overall network for the area or service should have that level of access. 6. Disabling federal employee accounts causes work stoppage and prevents them from performing assigned duties. It wastes resources, including staff hours and finances, and ties up network administrators with requests to restore access. This meets the definition of fraud, waste, and abuse. If I had done some of the things they are doing, I would have faced Article 15 non-judicial punishment or worse, including revocation of my security clearance. Installing unauthorized equipment in a network without approval is a very serious offense. Story 83. It feels like a full takeover. Isn't there supposed to be some autonomy for these organizations rather than being controlled by henchmen of a South African immigrant on a sofa bed? Story 84. He is a private citizen. He was not elected, not confirmed by the Senate, and does not lead a government agency. So you are telling me that anyone can walk in off the street, fire government employees, and take over government computers? Why are the police not escorting him out? Story 85. It is completely illegal and someone needs to stop it. But they will not. Story 86. It's a massive national security threat, and no one wants to admit that we are letting a foreign national have control of our government systems, unvetted and uncontrolled. Story 87. Frankly, I am fucking terrified that these unelected assholes even had access. Story 88. It's illegal, but I guess that doesn't matter any longer. Story 89. A natural consequence of large groups becoming anti-American. The Red Scare came true. Story 90. I think it's very dangerous. Elon should not have any influence. Story 91. Illegal access and tampering with federal government computers and systems. Story 92. A South African usurper is infiltrating the United States. But hey, fuck it, right? Putin is legitimately wetting his pants. We are done. America has fallen, and everyone who was supposed to watch over us has done nothing. Story 93. How do they have clearance for this as a third-party advisory department? They should only be able to view data, not modify it, and should not have direct access to datasets. He does not need to set up shop inside the Office of Personnel Management. The office should provide data to Musk. To my untrained view, this is how misconduct can happen quickly. Personal information can be leaked, data can be stolen, or the DOGE department can gain unnecessary access to systems it does not need. Story 94. This person has no security clearance or formal government job and is tampering with government data they are not authorized to access. Story 95. The TechBro roadmap to make themselves god kings of their own city-states aligns nicely with Project 2025. Story 96. I think America is fooling itself if it believes it has more than 4 years left. Story 97. It's bad, but what does it matter that he's unelected and an illegal immigrant? It took 9 days for the fascist who was elected by a majority of United States voters to order the construction of the first mass concentration camp for the unwanted. 9 days, the actual definition of a concentration camp. Elon is just doing his part in executing the plan for a fascist regime takeover, which a majority of United States voters supported. The first Hitler salute on Inauguration Day and a concentration camp on Day 9. Story 98. Since when did an unelected immigrant earn the right to dictate orders to Americans? Seriously, this man is not an American. He is a wealthy billionaire from South Africa. Story 99. Did Elon have to go through Senate confirmation for this appointment? If not, he is running afoul of the Appointments Clause of the United States Constitution. Also, the sham department that he is a part of is probably not legal. From the Department of Justice. However, it seems quite clear that the Constitution confers on the Congress the power to establish departments and agencies in the executive branch of the government and to define the duties and functions of the officers who are to administer them. Story 100. From the outside, it seems the United States is experiencing a constitutional coup with full-scale state capture. It is an extremely risky strategy, not just for its victims but also for its perpetrators. I am exasperated by the lack of an official opposition with any real organized voice. I guess it is the endgame of the Republic. Story 101. How is this not a national security issue? Elon Musk does not work for the Federal Reserve. Story 102. Elon is orchestrating a Twitter takeover with the government, and everyone is standing idly by. What a messed up circus we are in. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.